My girlfriend took a break for her ex, then freaked out when I moved on with her cousin. Hey Reddit, long-time lurker, first-time poster. This is going to be a long one, so grab some coffee. I need to get this off my chest because it's been eating at me for weeks, and honestly, writing this out might help me process everything that's happened. I'm Luther, 29, software developer from Portland. This story is about how I finally grew a backbone and walked away from the most emotionally draining relationship of my life. It involves manipulation, gaslighting, family drama, and ultimately, finding love in the most unexpected place. Bear with me because this gets wild. So let me start from the beginning. 2 years ago, I met Isabella at a tech conference. She was presenting on digital marketing strategies, and I was immediately drawn to her confidence and intelligence. She had this magnetic personality that could light up a room, and when she smiled at me during the networking hour, I felt like I'd won the lottery. We started dating pretty quickly after that. Isabella was everything I thought I wanted: ambitious, beautiful, social. She worked for a marketing agency downtown, had this amazing apartment with exposed brick walls, and knew all the best restaurants in the city. For the first few months, everything felt perfect. We'd go hiking on weekends, she'd cook these elaborate dinners, and we'd stay up late talking about our dreams and goals. But there were little things that bothered me from early on. She'd get these distant looks sometimes, especially when certain songs came on or when we'd pass specific places in the city. When I'd ask what was wrong, she'd just say she was thinking about work or family stuff. I believed her because, honestly, who doesn't have moments like that? The real red flag should have been how she talked about her ex, James. She'd bring him up in weird contexts, like we'd be watching a movie and she'd say, "James and I saw this in theaters," or we'd be at a restaurant and she'd mention, "James introduced me to this place." It wasn't constant, but it was frequent enough that I started noticing the pattern. I brought it up once, gently, asking if she was still hung up on him. She got defensive and said I was being insecure, that James was just a big part of her past and it was natural to have memories. She made me feel like I was being unreasonable for even bringing it up. That should have been my first clue about the gaslighting that was coming. Here's where it gets complicated. Isabella has this huge extended family, and I got close with a lot of them pretty quickly. Her cousin Maya and I hit it off as friends almost immediately. Maya's a graphic designer, super creative and funny, and she'd often be at family gatherings that Isabella would drag me to. Maya and I would end up in these long conversations about design, technology, and just life in general. She had this way of really listening when you talked, not just waiting for her turn to speak. I noticed Maya would sometimes give me these looks when Isabella would make little digs at me in front of the family. Nothing too obvious, but Isabella had this habit of undermining me in subtle ways. Like, I'd tell a story and she'd correct minor details in a way that made me look foolish, or she'd make jokes about my career that weren't really jokes. Maya would catch my eye and give me this sympathetic smile, and I started to realize that maybe I wasn't imagining these moments. About 6 months into the relationship, things took a turn. Isabella started getting more withdrawn, spending more time on her phone, and being less present when we were together. When I'd try to plan dates or weekend trips, she'd always have some excuse about work or needing space. But then I'd see her posting on social media about girls' nights and events I didn't even know about. The breaking point came about 8 months ago. We were at her apartment on a Sunday morning, having what I thought was a nice lazy breakfast, when her phone buzzed with a text. Her whole demeanor changed instantly. She got this look on her face, excitement mixed with anxiety, and excused herself to take a call. I could hear her in the bedroom, talking in this soft, intimate voice I hadn't heard her use with me in months. When she came back out, she was distracted and kept checking her phone. Finally, I asked what was going on. That's when she dropped the bomb. James had texted. He was moving back to Portland after 3 years in San Francisco, and he wanted to meet up to reconnect. She said it like it was no big deal, but I could see the wheels turning in her head. "What do you mean, reconnect?" I asked. She got defensive again, saying they had unfinished business and that she needed closure. Closure. After 2 years with me, she still needed closure with her ex. "Isabella, we've been together for a year and a half. What kind of closure do you need?" That's when she said the words that still make my stomach turn. "Honestly, Luther, I've been thinking about James a lot lately. I never really got over him, and now that he's coming back, I don't know. I feel like I owe it to myself to explore what could have been." I sat there in stunned silence. She continued, talking about how she'd been suppressing these feelings, how she tried to make things work with me but couldn't shake the connection she had with James. She said she thought she was ready to move on but realized she wasn't. "So what are you saying?" I managed to ask. "I'm saying I need to see where things go with James. I need to know if what we had was real or if it's just nostalgia." The crazy part? She expected me to be okay with this. She actually suggested we could take a break while she figured things out with James, and if it didn't work out, maybe we could try again. I looked at her sitting there, asking me to be her backup plan while she pursued her ex, and something inside me just snapped. Not in an angry way, but more like a clarity I'd never experienced before. "Isabella," I said, "if you're still this hung up on James after a year and a half with me, then you should absolutely go be with him. I'm not going to fight for someone who doesn't want to be here." She looked surprised, like she expected me to beg or make some grand gesture. Instead, I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. "Luther, wait," she called after me. "I didn't say I wanted to break up. I just need time to figure this out." I turned around at the door. "No, Isabella. You don't get to keep me on hold while you explore other options. You've made your choice. Now I'm making mine." And I left. That was 8 months ago, and honestly, it was the best decision I ever made. But the story doesn't end there. A few days after the breakup, Maya reached out. She said she'd heard what happened from family gossip and wanted to check on me. We met for coffee, and she was genuinely concerned about how I was doing. She told me something that blew my mind. Apparently, Isabella had been talking about James for months to various family members, wondering if she'd made a mistake by not fighting harder for their relationship when it ended. Maya said she'd wanted to warn me but didn't know how to bring it up without causing family drama. She felt terrible about not saying anything sooner. Over the next few weeks, Maya and I started hanging out more. She'd invite me to gallery openings or local music shows, things that Isabella would never have been interested in. With Maya, I didn't feel like I had to perform or prove myself. She appreciated my dry sense of humor, actually listened to my stories about work, and never made me feel small or inadequate. About a month after the breakup, Maya and I were at this indie bookstore cafe, and she said something that caught me completely off guard. "You know, Luther, I always thought Isabella was crazy for not appreciating what she had with you." "What do you mean?" "I mean, watching you two together at family events, it was obvious that you were completely devoted to her. But she always seemed like she was somewhere else mentally. Even before the James thing came up again. There was something in the way she said it that made me look at her differently. Maya had always been attractive, but I'd never really noticed because she was Isabella's cousin and I was in a relationship. But sitting there in that coffee shop, I realized I'd been developing feelings for her without even realizing it. "Maya," I said carefully, "are you saying what I think you're saying?" She blushed, actually blushed, and looked down at her latte. "I'm saying that if I had someone like you, I wouldn't be thinking about anyone else." That was the moment everything shifted. We talked for 3 more hours that day, and by the end of it, we both acknowledged that there was something between us worth exploring. But here's where it gets complicated. Maya was terrified about the family implications. Dating your cousin's ex is messy under normal circumstances, but when that cousin is Isabella, dramatic, manipulative Isabella, it was bound to be explosive. We decided to take things very slowly and keep it private while we figured out if this was real or just rebound emotions on my part. For about 2 months, we'd meet for coffee, go to movies, have these long conversations about everything and nothing. It was the complete opposite of my relationship with Isabella. With Maya, everything felt easy and natural. Meanwhile, I'd been hearing through mutual friends that Isabella and James had indeed gotten back together, but it wasn't going well. Apparently, the 3 years apart had changed both of them, and they were constantly fighting about everything from career priorities to where to live. Several people mentioned that Isabella had been asking about me, wondering how I was doing and whether I was dating anyone. 3 months after the breakup, Isabella called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Luther, hi. How are you doing?" "I'm good, Isabella. How are things with James?" There was a long pause. "That's actually why I'm calling. Things with James aren't working out the way I hoped. We're different people now. The connection I thought we still had, it's not really there anymore." I could see where this was going from a mile away. "I've been thinking about us a lot," she continued. "About what we had. I think I made a mistake, Luther. I think I threw away something real for a fantasy. Isabella dash. No, let me finish. I know I hurt you, and I know I probably don't deserve another chance, but I can't stop thinking about how good we were together. How good we could be again. The old me might have been tempted. The old me might have been flattered that she realized what she'd lost. But sitting there listening to her, all I could think about was Maya. Maya who laughed at my terrible jokes. Maya who supported my career ambitions. Maya who never made me feel like I was competing with someone else for her attention. Isabella, I appreciate you calling, but I'm not interested in trying again. Is there someone else? She asked, and I could hear the shock in her voice. Yes, I said simply. The line went quiet for a long moment. Then, who is it? I probably should have lied or deflected, but I was tired of games and manipulation. It's Maya. The explosion was immediate. Maya? My cousin Maya? Are you fucking kidding me, Luther? Isabella, you left me for your ex. You don't get to be upset about who I'm with now. She's my family. This is completely different. How is it different? You chose James over me. I moved on. She started crying then, saying I was trying to hurt her, that I was using Maya to get back at her. She accused me of planning this whole thing, of never really loving her if I could move on so quickly. I let her talk until she wore herself out, then I said, Isabella, I loved you completely. I would have done anything for you. But you made it clear that wasn't enough. Maya sees me for who I am and appreciates it. That's not revenge. That's just finding someone who actually wants to be with me. She hung up on me. Within an hour, Maya was getting angry texts from Isabella. Within a day, Maya's mom was calling her asking what was going on. The family drama I'd been dreading had officially begun. Maya handled it better than I expected. She called a family meeting, without Isabella, and explained the situation to her parents, her siblings, and the core family members. She told them that what she and I had was real, that it had developed naturally after my breakup with Isabella, and that she wasn't going to apologize for falling for someone who treated her well. Most of the family was surprisingly supportive. Maya's mom said she'd always liked me and thought Isabella had treated me poorly. Maya's dad said as long as his daughter was happy and being respected, he didn't care about the family politics. But Isabella wasn't done. She started a campaign to turn people against us. She told anyone who would listen that I was emotionally abusive, that I'd probably been cheating on her with Maya all along, that Maya was a backstabbing snake who stole her boyfriend. The irony was thick. The woman who left me for her ex was now accusing me of being unfaithful. Some people believed her, mostly because Isabella can be very convincing when she wants to be. But most people saw through it, especially when more details about her relationship with James started coming out. Apparently, she'd been in contact with him for months before their meetup, and several family members had heard her talking about wanting him back long before she broke up with me. Maya and I weathered the storm by focusing on each other and ignoring the drama. We made our relationship official about 4 months after my breakup with Isabella, and by then, it was clear to everyone, including Isabella, that this wasn't some rebound fling. The real test came at Maya's cousin's wedding about 2 months ago. Isabella was going to be there, and Maya and I had to decide whether to attend together or skip it entirely. Maya didn't want to let Isabella's drama affect her family relationships, so we decided to go. Isabella showed up alone, things with James had officially ended by then, and spent most of the reception glaring at us and making snide comments to anyone who would listen. At one point, she cornered Maya in the bathroom and accused her of stealing me just to hurt her. Maya told me later what she said in response. Isabella, you threw Luther away like garbage because you wanted someone else. The fact that I saw his value when you couldn't doesn't make me a villain. It makes me smart. That pretty much summed up the whole situation. It's been 8 months since the breakup now, and 6 months since Maya and I became official. Isabella is dating some new guy she met on a dating app, though from what I hear through the family grapevine, she's still comparing everyone to James and, ironically, to me. Maya and I just moved in together last month. She's been slowly redecorating my apartment, and it's incredible how different the space feels with her touch. Where Isabella always wanted everything to be perfect and Instagram-worthy, Maya makes everything feel warm and lived in. She leaves her design sketches on the coffee table, brings home weird plants from the farmer's market, and actually uses the kitchen for more than just reheating takeout. The most telling difference is how we handle conflict. With Isabella, any disagreement would turn into a battle of who could be more dramatic or who could claim more victimhood. With Maya, we actually talk through problems like adults. When we disagree about something, we listen to each other and find compromises. Revolutionary concept, right? Looking back, I can see so many red flags I ignored with Isabella. The constant references to James, the way she'd undermine my confidence, how she'd create drama and then play the victim when I reacted to it. I stayed because I thought that kind of intensity meant passion, but really it was just toxicity disguised as romance. Maya asked me the other day if I ever regret how everything happened, if I wish I'd ended things with Isabella differently or sooner. Honestly, I regret staying as long as I did, but I don't regret the experience because it taught me what I actually want in a relationship. I want someone who chooses me every day, not someone who keeps me around while she figures out if someone better is available. I want someone who builds me up instead of tearing me down. I want someone who's present in our relationship instead of mentally checked out. I have all of that with Maya, and more. She encourages my career goals, laughs at my terrible movie choices, and never makes me feel like I'm competing with some idealized version of another person. When she looks at me, I can see that she actually sees me, not who she wants me to be or who she's comparing me to, but who I actually am. The family drama has mostly died down now. Isabella still makes occasional passive-aggressive social media posts that are clearly about us, but most people have stopped paying attention. She skipped Maya's birthday party last month, which everyone agreed made the whole event more enjoyable. Maya's been talking about us taking a trip to Europe next spring, and for the first time in years, I'm excited about making long-term plans with someone. With Isabella, I always had this underlying anxiety that she might change her mind about us at any moment. With Maya, I feel secure and confident in what we're building together. To anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation, if your partner is still hung up on their ex, if they're making you feel like a placeholder while they figure out their feelings for someone else, please don't wait around hoping they'll choose you. You deserve someone who knows they want to be with you, not someone who needs to explore other options to be sure. And if you find yourself developing feelings for someone new while you're still technically available, don't feel guilty about it. Sometimes the heart knows what it wants before the brain catches up. Just make sure you're ending one relationship before starting another, and be honest about your feelings and intentions. I never expected to find love with Maya, but I'm incredibly grateful that I did. She's taught me what it feels like to be truly appreciated and loved for who I am, not tolerated while someone hopes for something better to come along. Isabella did me the biggest favor of my life when she decided to pursue James. She freed me up to find someone who actually wants to be with me, and I couldn't be happier about how everything turned out. That's my story, Reddit. Thanks for reading this novel-length post. Sometimes you need to get it all out to strangers on the internet to really process what you've been through. Update: a few people have asked for more details about specific events, so I thought I'd add some context. The coffee shop where Maya first told me she thought Isabella was crazy for not appreciating me is still our place. We go there every Sunday morning now, and the barista knows our orders by heart. It's become this little tradition that feels so much more meaningful than any of the elaborate date nights Isabella used to plan. Someone asked about the family wedding where Isabella confronted Maya. The drama was actually worse than I initially described. Isabella had apparently been drinking and at one point stood up during the toasts and made some comment about fake friends and stolen relationships. Maya's uncle, who's always been the family peacekeeper, actually had to escort Isabella outside. It was mortifying for everyone involved. The most ridiculous part of that whole evening was that Isabella was there with her new boyfriend, some finance bro named Max who spent the entire reception talking about cryptocurrency and his CrossFit routine. Even Isabella looked bored with him, which I'll admit gave me some petty satisfaction. Maya handled the whole situation with so much grace. She never stooped to Isabella's level or engaged in any of the drama. Even when Isabella was spreading rumors about us, Maya just focused on the people who mattered to her and let her actions speak for themselves. A couple of people have also asked about James and how that whole situation played out. From what I've heard through mutual friends, things between Isabella and James imploded pretty spectacularly. Apparently, James had built up this romanticized version of their relationship in his mind during his time in San Francisco, and the reality of being with Isabella again didn't match his memories. The word I got was that Isabella was trying to recreate their old relationship exactly as it had been, while James had grown and changed during their years apart. He wanted to try new things and meet new people, while Isabella wanted to pick up right where they'd left off 3 years earlier. They were both trying to recapture something that no longer existed. James moved back to San Francisco about 4 months after they got back together. Isabella was devastated, according to her social media posts, though she tried to frame it as a mutual decision to focus on their individual growth journeys. Classic Isabella, always spinning the narrative to avoid looking like the victim of her own choices. I actually ran into James at a tech meetup about a month before he left town again. It was awkward at first, but he was surprisingly cool about everything. He actually apologized for the whole situation and said Isabella had told him some version of events that made it sound like I'd been a terrible boyfriend. When he realized the truth, that I'd been nothing but supportive while she was emotionally cheating with him, he felt genuinely bad about the whole thing. "Man, I'm sorry," he told me. "I thought you were some controlling asshole based on what she said. But everyone who knows you says you're a good guy, and now that I've been back with her for a few months, I can see how she twists things." It was vindicating to hear, honestly. Isabella had been telling people that I was possessive and didn't support her goals, when in reality I'd encouraged her career ambitions and given her plenty of space to pursue her interests. James, seeing through her manipulation tactics after just a few months back together, confirmed what I'd started to suspect, that Isabella has a pattern of rewriting history to make herself the victim in every situation. The other thing people have asked about is how Maya and I navigated the family politics. It was definitely tricky at first, especially with Maya's parents. They love Isabella despite her flaws, she's family after all, and they were worried about the potential for long-term family division. Maya sat down with her parents and had a really honest conversation about what she'd observed in my relationship with Isabella and why she felt I deserved better. She told them about the subtle put-downs, the emotional distance, the way Isabella would flirt with other guys at family gatherings while I was standing right there. Her parents had noticed some of these things but hadn't wanted to interfere in Isabella's relationship. What really won them over was seeing how I treated Maya compared to how the relationship dynamics had been with Isabella. Maya's mom told her later that she'd never seen me look as relaxed and happy as I did once Maya and I started dating. She said that with Isabella, I always seemed like I was walking on eggshells, trying to avoid saying or doing the wrong thing. That observation hit home for me because it was absolutely true. With Isabella, I was constantly second-guessing myself, wondering if I was being too clingy or not attentive enough, trying to read her moods and adjust my behavior accordingly. I'd gotten so used to that dynamic that I didn't realize how exhausting it was until I experienced something different with Maya. With Maya, I can just be myself. I don't have to perform or prove my worth every day. She likes my weird habits and terrible puns. She doesn't get annoyed when I get excited about new programming languages or spend too long explaining some technical problem I'm working on. She actually engages with my interests instead of tolerating them. The contrast became really obvious to Maya's family pretty quickly. At family gatherings, instead of sitting quietly while Isabella dominated conversations, I was actually participating and enjoying myself. Maya's younger brother told me recently that he'd always thought I was kind of boring when I was with Isabella, but now he realizes I was just suppressed. That comment made me think about how much of myself I'd lost in that relationship. Isabella had this way of making me feel like my interests were nerdy or boring. My jokes weren't funny. My career wasn't as important as hers. She never said these things directly. It was always subtle undermining that left me questioning my own worth. Maya celebrates all the parts of me that Isabella made me feel self-conscious about. She brags about my work to her friends, laughs genuinely at my humor, and encourages me to pursue hobbies I'd given up because Isabella thought they were a waste of time. I've started playing guitar again for the first time in 2 years. Isabella always complained that it was too loud and asked me to practice when she wasn't around, which basically meant never since we spent most of our free time together. Maya bought me a nice pair of headphones so I can practice anytime without bothering the neighbors, and she actually likes listening to me play. These might seem like small things, but they add up to feeling valued and appreciated in a relationship versus feeling tolerated. Another update people have been asking about, Isabella's current situation. I try not to keep tabs on her life, but Portland's tech scene is pretty small, and we have a lot of mutual connections, so I hear things occasionally. After James left town again, Isabella went through what can only be described as a quarter-life crisis, even though she's 30. She quit her marketing job to pursue her passion, which apparently is photography, moved back in with her parents, and started posting a lot of inspirational quotes about self-discovery and learning to love yourself. The photography thing would be admirable if it seemed like a genuine passion, but based on her Instagram, it mostly involves taking moody black and white photos of coffee cups and abandoned buildings with captions about artistic growth and finding her authentic self. She also started dating Max, the finance bro from the wedding, pretty seriously for a while. They moved in together after about 2 months, which seemed fast even for Isabella. But that relationship imploded too, apparently because Max wanted her to get a real job, to help with expenses while she was pursuing photography. The irony is thick, considering Isabella used to make little comments about my stable but boring career in software development. Turns out financial stability is attractive when you actually need it to pay rent. Maya and I ran into Isabella at a coffee shop about a month ago. Not our usual place, thankfully. It was the first time I'd seen her in person since the wedding disaster. She looked different. Thinner, more tired, like she was trying too hard to appear put together. She came over to our table, which took some nerve, and made awkward small talk for a few minutes. She asked about my work, complimented Maya's hair, and generally acted like we were all old friends catching up. It was surreal. But then, as she was leaving, she looked at me with this expression I couldn't quite read and said, "You look really happy, Luther. I'm glad things worked out for you." There was something in her tone that made me think she was genuinely reflecting on everything that had happened, maybe even feeling some regret about how she'd handled things. Maya said later that she thought Isabella was trying to apologize without actually apologizing, which sounds about right. I felt a moment of sympathy for her, honestly. Not enough to want her back in my life, but enough to hope she figures things out eventually. Everyone deserves to be happy, even people who make terrible relationship decisions. The encounter did make me appreciate how far I've come, though. 2 years ago, running into Isabella would have sent me into an emotional tailspin. I would have spent the rest of the day analyzing every word she said and wondering if I'd handled the interaction correctly. This time, I felt nothing but mild curiosity about her life and gratitude that I wasn't part of it anymore. Maya noticed how unbothered I was by the encounter and said it was a good sign that I'd really moved on. She was right. Isabella has become just a chapter in my story, not the main character. Final thoughts for anyone who's made it this far. If you're in a relationship where you constantly feel like you're not enough, where you're competing with exes or fantasies, where you're walking on eggshells trying not to say the wrong thing, that's not love. That's not what you deserve. Real love feels easy, even when it's challenging. Real love doesn't make you question your worth or compete for someone's attention. Real love is someone choosing you every day, not keeping you around while they figure out if someone better might come along. I wasted almost 2 years trying to be enough for someone who had already decided I wasn't. Don't make my mistake. Know your worth, and find someone who sees it too. Maya and I are planning to get engaged sometime next year. When I think about proposing to her, I feel excited and confident, not anxious and uncertain like I did when I was planning to propose to Isabella. That tells me everything I need to know about the difference between these two relationships. Thanks again for reading my novel-length story, Reddit. Sometimes you need to share your experience with strangers to really understand what you've been through and how much you've grown.